Hi there, Abby here. Welcome to day 3 of the Ignite Your Sales Challenge. I hope that you're enjoying the challenge so far and that you're ready to get cracking again today. Now, today, in my opinion, is the most important day. Today, we're going to talk about follow-up. And I believe this is something that is missed in most businesses. And again, it's something so simple to turn around and fix. So if you're going to stick to the challenge religiously, today is the day, I assure you. Now, before I go on to talk about follow-up for today's challenge, I want to step back for a moment and talk about expectations. Because one area that I see as a common problem is that we tend to believe there's a silver bullet. There's just one magic solution that's going to deliver all of our sales. And that doesn't tend to be the case. And what then happens in terms of our expectations is, say today we contact 10 people and only 2 people respond in a positive manner and go on to be a further sales opportunity for us. Many people would look at that and say, well, only 2 in 10, it didn't work. However, in my opinion, if we started this morning without those 2 opportunities and we end today with 2 new opportunities or opportunities back on the table that we've ignited today, that's a great outcome, because I personally don't believe there's any sales strategy where we're going to get a 10 out of 10 success rate. An example that I had of this in my first business was I sent out a direct mail campaign, and I know you're laughing, but I like to try and be different. And hey, how many letters do you get a day? So I sent out a letter, and out of 100 letters, which cost me $1 each per stamp, I got back 3 responses. Out of those 3 responses, I closed 1 deal. So on paper, if you look at that, that's a 1 in 100 success rate. To most people, that would look like an enormous failure. However, when I reframe that and tell you that actually the consultancy services I was charging at the time were more than $25,000. So therefore I spent $100 and I made over $25,000. That is a fantastic return on investment and worth it. So I just want you to think about that when we go and do some of these different activities, because it's actually again around reframing the results. So with that, let's get back to follow up and today's challenge. So as I mentioned, failing to follow up is probably the biggest mistake that I see. And let's start out by looking at the facts. 80% of sales require 5 follow-ups or more. However, only 44% of people follow up once. This is an enormous missed opportunity and disconnect, because if you're failing to follow up more than once, you are missing that 80% of the opportunity, which requires 5 follow-ups or more. Now, normally this is because it's our own fears of rejections or our own assumptions that people just aren't interested, and therefore we give up. But in reality, that's not actually the case in many instances. If we take a look at the research still for a moment, the research shows that when we first engage with our customers, most of them are not actually ready to buy. So at any given time, 3% of your market is actually buying. 57% are ready to begin, and 40% are not ready yet. So let's not forget that there's also other reasons too. We're all busy, we're all running around like mad people, we've all got really busy day jobs. And so sometimes actually it's just that something else has come up that's urgent. I actually had this myself. I actually assumed that someone who I'd met wasn't interested. And when I gave myself the kick up the backside that I needed to make that follow-up call, it turned out her husband had been in hospital. It wasn't actually anything to do with me. It was about the fact she had other priorities at that time. But again, like everybody else, for a moment I thought, she's not interested. Now, the research also shows those people who nurture those leads and continue to follow up make 50% more sales than those who don't. And what I want to show you is a respectful way that we can follow up without being that annoying, irritating person who's constantly phoning. We can do it in a much more respectful way than that. Now, what you'll also find is you'll gain a competitive advantage by doing this. If most people, as the research shows, are only doing 1 follow-up call and you're doing the 5, you'll be in the minority that are actually doing this extra step, and therefore you'll gain a competitive advantage over the competition who aren't prepared to do this. So let's look at today's challenge. Now, step one that we're going to take today is to identify 5 clients who, now that I talk about it, you know that you should have followed up with, but you haven't done so yet, or maybe you wrote them off. So step one is to identify 5 clients that we're going to call. Step 1, 5, prospects really, I should call it rather than clients. So people who you've been in contact with, perhaps you put in a proposal, but you've just not followed up with them. Now, step 2 is that we're going to call them. And call is a million times better than email because we're able to get that conversation going and we can adapt as we're talking to them. Now, what we need to do is now prepare for how we have this call because there's a certain way that we need to go about it. We can't phone up and say, "Hi, have you made a decision yet? Are you going ahead with me?" That's all about us. What we need to do is make it all about the prospect. So is there anything else that they need from us? We've got a promotion running which you might be eligible for, and I thought I'd let you know in case it's of interest. Or last time we spoke, you mentioned that you're looking to go ahead in June and that's the timescales that you're working to. We're coming up to that date. I just wanted to see if there's anything else that you need from me so that I don't hold you up. You know, something like that. It just has to be about them. So what we need to do here is we think of one reason to call that makes it about them. And if you can't think of a reason in your particular situation, then the fallback position is, I was just calling to see how you're getting on, conscious I haven't spoken to you in a couple of weeks, and just wanted to check in with you. It's a respectful way, and we're not asking for the order. Now, another point on this is when someone does say to me, no, not going to go ahead, I will always leave the door open for follow-up. So I will always say, no worries, could I give you a call in a couple months to see how you're getting on and touch base with you? I'd love to hear how you're getting on. That leaves the door open for me to call. So when I call back, quite a lot of the time, people haven't made the progress that they'd like. So it can often be quite timely when I call. And if they're not making that progress, it gives me the opportunity to re-engage. But I can just do a gentle call to say, how are you getting on? How are you doing? You know, wanted to touch base with you. So that's another consideration for you in this scenario where someone doesn't choose to go ahead. Leave that door open. Now, as I said, we need to, it's a numbers game. We need to consider the expectations that we talked about at the start. So even if after the 5 calls that we make today, one prospect that we thought was dead and off the table has been rejuvenated and come back to life, that will be a good result. And this is a numbers game. So if you're able to double that and make it 10 calls, then fantastic. Now, the final thing that we have to think about is how can we do this as a repeatable process? So what we don't want is this to be a one-hit wonder because this is a continuous part of our business. So there's 2 ways that we can really do this. The ideal way is if you have a CRM system, a customer relationship management system, you can put your notes in the CRM system and you can put a reminder on for you to call in 2 weeks' time, 1 month's time, whatever you agreed. And that's the best way to do it. If you don't have that CRM system, you can simply put a reminder in your calendar and keep track of your notes in a spreadsheet. So it doesn't matter if you don't have a CRM system, you can also do this too. But what the final task to think about is how can you ensure this just doesn't happen as a one-hit wonder? It's a systemized, repeatable part of your business. So after every conversation that you have with a customer, you update the CRM system, you put a reminder in your diary to call. Or, you update your spreadsheet and a reminder in your diary to call. Whatever the best version is for you, as long as it's going to be consistent and repeatable. So, today, as I said, is literally the most important day because you have already warmed up these prospects. You've already met with them. Potentially you've put a proposal together to them. Potentially you've spent quite a bit of time chatting to them. And perhaps they're, halfway there and we've just given up. And actually we need to keep going. So give your prospects a call and let me know in the Facebook group how you get on. I'm dying to hear how you go today. If you've got any questions, again, put them in the Facebook group and I'll be more than happy to help. So let's not forget our 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go for it. Pick up the phone and go follow up. I'll see you tomorrow.